turn it on? Okay, good. All right. Good morning. So yes, things are a little different this morning. As you noticed, we had a wonderful choir this morning, right? Awesome job. I was super excited for that. We did that. If you were not here for our last worship service, we did that then, and it was really awesome. And so we're going to be pulling that out every now and then, as much as we can convince Isaac to do that, right? But yeah, so also tonight is our fall festival. So it starts at 4. We're going to have some great fish. They also have fried pickles. That's what I'm here for. Also, we will have a few other things. I know tenderloins, I believe is what it was, and some chicken and different things like that. So all kinds of good stuff. But also, we'll have some games, pumpkin painting, all of that. And it's going to be a really good time. It's one of my favorite things that we do. But as you can tell, I am not Pastor Chuck. I am Joey. Unfortunately, he called us yesterday. He was supposed to be doing a wedding at the rehearsal Friday night, kind of a scratchy voice. And when he called me yesterday, he really didn't have a voice. I was like smashing the phone to my ear. So you get me, hopefully, and this will go well. And he sent me his sermon. And so I'm going to read it to you really quick. It says, last week, Pastor Chuck did a wonderful, great, magnificent job talking about living in a broken world. And so I stopped there, and I decided I would take over from there. Okay, so no, he did a great job. But yes, we've been in this new series talking about, he talked about living in a broken world, and today we're going to be talking about living redeemed. How many of us, when we found Christ, we immediately were like putting the Jesus stickers on our car and getting the cross necklace, and all your shirts had something to do with God and forgiveness, and he's great, and we did all of these things on outward appearance. Who did that? Because I did that. Just me? I'm the only one? I have all kinds of stickers on my car. Most of my words, I don't know if I have a shirt that doesn't have something to do with God as far as if it has words on it. Or dogs. That's it. So, but yeah, so we all do these things to give an outward appearance of something that has gone on the inside. But sometimes we don't always live a lifestyle of those things. Redemption isn't just a big theological word that you read about and hear about in church. It's actually a lifestyle. It's more than just being forgiven. Okay, is living in the freedom of the new life that you have. Many of us at times don't always live as if we've been redeemed. Sometimes we live as if we're still bound. Often we can be stuck. In John 10:10, it says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. But I have come that they may have life and have it to the fullness." Christ didn't just die to get us out of sin, but he died to bring us into life. Think about that for a moment. Christ didn't just die to get us out of sin. He died to bring us into life, into a new life. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, it tells us, this means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, and the new life has begun. Not too long ago, and I know everyone might roll their eyes, but I joined a CrossFit gym. I know, someone does CrossFit because they'll tell you about it. But anyways, when I joined this gym, the first thing you had to make sure you got was shoes, right? I needed the shoes. Okay, I needed to eventually get some other things because, well, it just makes things a little bit easier at times, or maybe it just looks nice. But I knew that I needed to do some things different. I had to change not just going to the gym, but I also had to change other aspects of my life. I had to change how I was eating, how much water I was drinking, how much I was sleeping. If I actually truly wanted to get healthy, there was things I had to change besides just going to the gym, all right? And there's things that we need to do as Christians to live a life that says, I'm redeemed, all right? In Mark 5, we're going to read about the woman with the bleeding disorder. And I believe she has the best example of some of living redeemed after something that she's been through for a good portion of her life. It's going to start in verse 27. Let's see here. Where am I? Nope, sorry, 25. All right. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered with a great deal of She had suffered with a great deal of many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, if I could just touch the robe, I will be healed. Immediately the bleeding stopped, and she could feel her body, that she had been healed from her terrible condition. Jesus realized at once the healing power had gone out of him. So he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask, 'Who's touched me?'" But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees and in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over." Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for today. God, I thank you for being able to be in your house. I thank you for a chance to come in and worship together. But God, I also am so thankful for what you have done for us. God, I pray that you just give us open hearts, open minds. God, that we would be able to receive what you have today. God, that this would be your words spoken, and you would be able just to reveal what you have for us. In your name we pray. Amen. So for 12 years, this woman had dealt with bleeding. I don't know if you know much about the culture that she lived in, but that would mean she was unclean and she couldn't be around anybody, okay? If you want to get into reading some of the laws in Leviticus and all the things that had to go on, it's very detailed on all of that in their culture and what they had to do. But that meant she had no real relationships. She had to live on the outskirts. She had no family would have kept in touch with her. After so long of time, she couldn't be touched by anybody. There's no hugs. There's no, pat on the backs or anything like that. She wouldn't have been able to go to the temple or the synagogue. She wouldn't have been able to walk through the market and get the things that she needs without very much everyone knowing there was something wrong with her. Okay? She'd spent all of her money. And despite that, after 12 years, she knew all I had to do was touch his robe. She wasn't even trying to touch him. The thought of touching him, because she knew she was unclean, would make him unclean. I just need to touch his robe. Redemption begins not when God notices us, but when we reach for him in faith. A lot of us know that we are forgiven, but we don't always live as if we are redeemed. Jesus didn't just heal her, he restored her. He restored her life into the community and a purpose. Living redeemed means we get to experience the power of being in Jesus' presence. Many of us can say that we've been in some services, been in some worship services, or maybe it's not even been in a church that you've been in the presence of the power of God. Like there's nothing you can do. When I was 12 years old, I went to a Follow conference. If you don't know what these are huge youth conferences the Wesleyan church puts on, and it was in Chicago. I also got stuck on an elevator for 2.5 hours there. But that was not the power of God I felt in that moment. But there was a service that I couldn't tell you if anyone was actually standing in it. We were worshiping, and we were just laid out on the floor, or you were kneeling, and it was just a moment of knowing that you were in the presence of God. You knew it. There was no question. We get the opportunity, when we live a life of redemption and being redeemed, of being in the presence of his power. Immediately, her bleeding stopped. When she touched him, it wasn't just this, oh, well, I tried. Jesus didn't have a conversation with her saying, oh, do you want to get well? She was healed by her faith. Her body was instantly healed, and her shame was gone. She had been told by the world, the church, her family, of what she couldn't do. But with one touch, one moment of faith, Jesus told her who she was. Redemption also gives us our identity, for us to know who we are. She had been defined by this thing that controlled her life, controlled every aspect of her. I have 3 wonderful boys. 2 of them are in here. They're amazing, they're great. And I'm the perfect mom, right? It's very obvious when someone gets in my car that I have kids. Just so you know. I apologize now if you ever need to get in my car. I'm throwing stuff out of the seats so you have a place to sit down. There's probably always food or leftover food in my car. It's very obvious that I am a mom. But that's not just who I am. Her issues, her problems, wasn't just who she was, but that's all the world saw of her. Sometimes people see me as someone who's very quiet and shy, loud and a lot, okay? I know that, but that's not just who I am. For 12 years, her identity was the bleeding woman. If you ever watched the show The Chosen, the scenes of that story is so powerful to me. There are 2 episodes that I've cried on, and that's one of them. The other one was Nicodemus when he didn't go with Jesus. But that scene, that moment when she gets there and she's like, I just need to go. Some of us maybe have identities and things that we're ashamed of. Things that we don't do no more, but we can't quite let go of. Maybe in the sense of a lifestyle you used to live in drugs or alcohol. Or maybe you were really angry and bitter. Maybe you have an identity in the fact that, well, I grew up in a single mom home. Life's just rough. It's just who I am kind of thing. We don't have to live with the identity of what we've been through as a label for us. Because Jesus said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Daughter. I can't imagine what that felt like for her. For someone to look at her and see her and say, daughter, your faith has made you well. When my parents would tell me, I'm proud of you, it was like, I'm pretty sure my insides were like jumping up and down. Right? When my parents said, I'm disappointed in you, I think I crumbled into a little ball inside and cried. But then when I hear the opposite, it would just build me up. There's so much power in words. And for Jesus to look at her and say, daughter, your faith has made you well. Like I told you, that word mom, which actually they call me mama. Okay, so it's nice because when you're in public and you hear mom, mommy, all these things, and then I hear a mom, I'm like, that one's mine. Okay? That label, it feels good. It feels good to me. I'm a wife. That label feels good to me. Not when he says my face is rude. If you know, you know. But it feels good to me. A friend, a sister. More importantly, the label that feels good to me is to knowing I am a child of God. In Romans 8, 1 and 2, it says, "So now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. And because you belong to him, the power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death. We no longer walk with the label of, I am a sinner." I actually don't even like the phrase, and you might not like this when I say it, but like, I'm a sinner saved by grace. Because like, I've lost that label. Jesus doesn't see me as sinner saved by grace. He sees daughter, my child. Now, am I perfect? Don't ask my children. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. I'm not. Are there things that I still do? Is there sin sometimes still in my life that I have to fix? Yeah, there is. But that's not tied to my name. Living redeemed also means we get to walk in peace and purpose. 34, verse 34, it says, he said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over." We no longer have to live in suffering. We're going to sit here for a minute. There are times where I might frequently, I apologize, this is hard, words are hard, frequently talk about my ADD, I'm a little squirrely at times, but I try really hard not to make an excuse for it. My children will know, my husband will know, hey, if I go, let me know if I'm going off. Like if all of a sudden you're talking to me, because you can be talking to me and something will pop in my head and like I've just walked off before. They're in the middle of a conversation with me and I'm like, oh, I'm just gone. Or I will interrupt them. Or I can be bouncing off the walls. And so like I ask them to help me because I don't want to be defined by this thing that, yeah, maybe I deal with, but there's things that I can learn. I can still treat them with respect. I can still go about things correctly with them. I used to live a life at one point in time that I'm not proud of. And I don't talk about it at times because I'm bragging, but I talk about it because of the freedom I found from it. I spent a handful of years living in Germany, partying and all kinds of things, and it's not something that I'm like, oh, look at what I did. Look how I lived my life. I experienced life. No, I wish I never did. But I share those things because I want people to see that that's not where you have to stay. There are things that I know everyone struggles with at times. Anxiety, depression, fear. I try to always make the comment that it's okay for you to be afraid, for a moment. But does that fear need to control you? Anxiety is normal whenever, you've got some big presentation. Carson's in a speech class, so he's got to get up front and do these talks. And he's been doing it for a little while. So he was in one last year, and he's in one this year. And so I think he's gotten a little better, feeling a little more confident, comfortable with it. But, it still can get you a little worked up because you're talking to a bunch of people, and they're just all staring at you, right? Hi, guys. But it doesn't have to control you. That anxiety doesn't have to control you. If you go through a significant thing in life and you lose somebody, some depression and sadness is kind of expected because you loved them and now you don't get to see them and talk to them. But doesn't need to control you. He says, go in peace. And when we have a peace that comes from God, it's almost just like that purpose just kind of comes out of it as well. Because now we have a testimony, not just of our salvation, of how God saved us and we know that we are going to get to spend eternity in heaven with him, but we also have a testimony of the day-to-day things that he helps us through. I also, at one point in time, I still am a like big just jump into action person. Like we've talked, Pastor Doug has talked a few times, like, are you like touch the water person or are you like a jump in person? I'm a jump in, like probably head first person, which isn't good in most scenarios, right? Sometimes you need to like take a step back. And I've burnt myself a few times and had to learn that maybe the water was really cold or really hot or there was things in it that I didn't want to be swimming with, so I needed to get out really quick. So I needed to figure out that happy place of what to do. And I'm thankful to be able to share the things like God has taught me how to sit in silence and wait for an answer. And there are times that I haven't, and this is what's happened. Our daily walk is our testimony of his redeeming grace and the transformation that he makes within us. Living redeemed changes everything. Not just because of who we are, but because of who he is and what that connects us to. If you have been around the Indiana South District very long, we like to play euchre, okay? And when we get together, when I say Indiana South Youth, or Indiana South District, it's our Wesleyan denomination, and all of us, when we get together, we play euchre. And also, a lot of them like to play jokes on each other. And in the series of this, I'm growing up. My dad is actually the district youth president at this point in time, and we stick around for hours later, and they're all playing euchre. And there was a time where they set up a scenario of that this person was just going to lose every game. If you don't play euchre, it's you and a partner and another person and their partner, and you're trying to win, okay? We will teach you. It's a great game. But anyways, Joe Gormong was being sabotaged. And people were having to, like, throw the game. They were getting perfect hands, and they were having to figure out how to, like, how do you lose with this? And finally, the evening's done, and he finds out what they've done. Years have gone on. I am now somehow sitting in the same position that my father was in, and Joe is there because I asked him to be the speaker for camp, and I'm like, you know what, let's play some euchre. Joe, let's play some euchre. No. Joe, I ain't playing euchre with you. You're Chuck's daughter. Like, what? Like, what does that mean? Like, I was like 10 or 12 when that happened. No, to this day, the man has never played euchre with me. Simply because of my connection. Simply because of our connection with God, we have the ability to live a redeemed life. We just start with reaching for him. We start with owning his presence. The worship team wants to come ahead and start coming up here. You can. Becoming a new creation and restoring our identity. It gives us a peace and a hope and a purpose. It's not enough to just live stating, I'm a Christian. Not enough, guys. It's not enough just to believe you're redeemed. You can believe all kinds of things. The demons know who Jesus is. They believe he is real. We have to live a redeemed life. I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes. Stay seated, just close your eyes. Like I said, it's